Now, let's focus on the world's biggest developing story today. As Russian troops and tanks pushed into Ukraine and airstrikes hit the country's capital, Kyiv, and other cities, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has declared martial law across the country. Earlier, Russia's President Vladimir Putin issued a warning against any country interfering in this conflict. Let's discuss all of this now with Ambassador Liubov Abravitova. She is, of course, from the Ukraine and represents a country here in the Republic of South Africa. Ambassador, very good afternoon to you, and thank you very much for your time. First up, can I begin here? When you heard the news that Russia has now moved into Ukraine earlier today, what did you think? I'm asking this against the background of our interview last week here on eNCA, where you were still hoping that some diplomatic efforts will prevent or stop Russia from invading Ukraine. So when the news of the invasion reached you this morning, what were your first thoughts?
Good day, Mr. Mayana. Thank you for this question. Well, today in the morning at 5 o'clock, when Russia brutally started full-scale war in Ukraine, I was thinking that we were telling this is about to happen on all possible levels. And it was just a matter of time, because it was very obviously that this very expensive exercise that Russia was performing on our borders would be realized. The scenario we very much predicted, and that's why we were ready to protect and to defend our territory.
Now, that preparation, has it helped in any way? Because from the reports we are getting since this morning, we understand that Russia has hit a string of airfields inside Ukraine, as well as in Kyiv, the capital, attacking military infrastructure and silos, for example. So how prepared were Ukrainian armed forces?
As we expected, Russians start their attacks from 3 directions. They are using their troops from the territory of Belarus. We have confirmation officially already. Of course, they're using Lugansk and Donetsk and this uncontrolled border to move their columns to Ukraine in the east, as well as they are attacking from the annexed Crimea. So the shellings are reported through all the country, in the major cities. So that is why the National Defense Forces, using their right for the self-defense according to Article 51 of the United Nations Charter, and they are countering with dignity the enemy's attacks. We are receiving reports about losses on both sides.
Do you have any details of casualties of those losses on both sides?
As of now, no. I cannot update you on this.
Okay. On the ground, we've also seen visuals of scores of people trying to leave Kyiv on the highway, which remained gridlocked for many hours. What can you tell us? What are you hearing from on the ground? How are people, residents of various cities, the citizens of Ukraine, how are they responding to this? We've had a report that the president has even allowed or permitted citizens to arm themselves.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Of course, the panic is very natural thing in such circumstances. But the enemy wants this panic among Ukrainian population, and that is why we have been preparing our population to this possible scenario. Of course, people behave differently, but tonight, we had the police detachments that are ensuring security and safety of the citizens and public order. So the police has stepped up measures to administrate the law in the streets and of cities and villages.
Has Ukraine appealed to NATO and the West for assistance?
Of course, and I mean, we appealed not only to NATO and EU, we are appealing to all the states in all the world to support us and to impose all possible sanctions against Russia, because only joint effort can stop it now.
Yeah, you said you can't give us details of the casualties, but you are receiving reports of losses of life on both sides, being the Russians and Ukrainian soldiers. What about ordinary citizens? Have you had any reports of any injuries or casualties at all?
Yes, we do receive these reports as well, but the numbers are not available as of now.
Yeah, it must be a very fluid situation. Of course, it's very, very difficult. Now, when you look at the situation, what do you anticipate would happen worse? Is the war going to get worse? Or as the world is calling on Russia to pull back, do you expect Vladimir Putin to respect those call and pull back? Or should we brace ourselves for more conflict?
I still believe that the conflict can be stopped by diplomatic efforts, but the very joint common voice of all the international community. No one wants war. I don't think that Putin will stop. I don't think that they will stop their aggression, and they want the control over Ukraine. All of us, we heard the speech of the president of Russian Federation on the eve of this invasion, when he decided to declare Lugansk, so-called Lugansk and Donetsk as independent states. So you clearly can hear in that speech that the Russian regime does not respect the sovereignty of Ukraine and even questions the existence of Ukraine as of independent state. So you already can, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, do you think, or do you feel like Ukraine is being used as a pawn? I mean, since 2014, with between Russian Federation and the West, because you are caught in the middle, so to speak.
We're strategically positioned between Russia and EU, but politically, we always, and we spoke about this last time, we always being a part of Europe. Now the intention of Ukraine to self-determination, to choose to become a member of NATO, of course, is using by Russia as a cause of invasion. But obviously, from the latest developments, you can see that this is totally about the Russian control about Ukraine. That's what they need. So my answer is no.
Okay, so you don't see yourself that Ukraine is a pawn. Ambassador, while I have you, just away from the diplomatic hat that you're wearing and also, the developing story in terms of a military conflict there now, with casualties beginning to pile up on both sides, as you've just said. Yourself, I mean, how are you feeling? I mean, you've got family on the ground. Are you in contact with them? Do you know if your family and people that you love, you care about back home in Ukraine are safe at this moment? Are you worried?
We are worried. All the members of the staff of the embassy have their relatives in Ukraine. And it is stressful when you, as a diplomat, have to protect with diplomatic means your country being that far away, and they are not safe, of course. So we were trying to support them. We still have communication with them. Ukrainian president today declared about severing of diplomatic relations with Russia, as you might know. So this is also the very important step for us.
So your staff members there, they are stressed. Are you getting any support from the South African Department of International Relations? After all, you are an accredited diplomatic mission in this country. And if so, what kind of support is that at this very trying time for yourself as Ukrainian ambassador and the rest of the embassy staff?
we stay and still very strong. We are receiving numerous emails, phone calls from ordinary South Africans with support of Ukraine, from Namibia, from Botswana, from Mozambique. We're receiving big number of messages. We are receiving flowers to the embassy. All the ambassadors of foreign countries accredited in South Africa are in touch, and also they offer any possible support that they can provide. So I'm very grateful that we can speak with one voice with the ambassadors of European group, for example, and we will.
Okay. The South African, are you aware, Ambassador, if there are many South Africans in Ukraine?
We are aware of South Africans in Ukraine. I am in constant connection with the ambassador of South Africa in Ukraine, and he's keeping me updated. As far as I know, the citizens of South Africa now are safe. So he's doing his job on his side as well.
So as far as you know, any South African who's in Ukraine at the moment is safe. So you still believe there will be a diplomatic solution? I understand the G7 is going to be meeting today on a virtual summit. We'll be crossing to London later on here on eNCA to our correspondent, just to get a sense of where the UK will be headed with that. Will Ukraine welcome more sanctions against Russia, for example, as we are seeing in addition to diplomatic efforts? What's your view, Ambassador?
Yes, we will welcome all possible sanctions, because this is the only way, from my point of view, how we can stop Russia now. Though the world will never be the same again. And when I say diplomatic solution, I mean the stop of Russian invasion in Ukraine, the withdrawal of Russian militaries from Ukraine, including the annexed territory of Crimea. And then when not a foot of Russian soldier steps on my land, then we will sit and talk. Maybe in international court.